and welcome to Two Pints of Maggots and a Packet of Hooks, the fishing podcast. It's now midsummer and we are on episode 3 of series 2. Loads and loads of stuff to get stuck into, as it has been a fair few weeks since we last did one of these podcasts. And as always, we'll be looking through the press pack. There's been lots going on since we last did one of these recordings. So we've had the Fishermania final. We have had about 3 or 4 magazines have hit the shelves, so we can talk through them. Lots of stuff going on social media as well. So really interesting there. In terms of tackle, in the tackle shed, it's been really interesting for me. We've had temperatures up to sort of 30 odd degrees, so those flags have been cracked. The little ones are off school now as well, and the weather's a little bit changeable right now. We've had some thunderstorms, which is not great for fisheries, but the rain is welcome for sure, especially on running water. And I've been sort of flipping between the two, commercials and rivers, for the first time in a long time. So I've had an opportunity to use bits of gear that have been sat in the shed for a long time, and we can have a look at that. Lots of new items have hit the shelves as well, so well worth looking at some of those. And of course, as always, anything that I've tried and tested and used and abused, I'll talk through that also. In the big chair for the big chat, we have got well, I could say river specialist, natural water angler, but that would be unfair. This guy is no slouch on commercial fisheries as well. This guy is a bit of an all-rounder, that is for sure. And it's Matrix-backed Riverfest 2018 champion, Mr. Lee Wright. And the conversation that Lee and I have, as always, follows the same theme about sort of how he got into fishing and where he is today and his future plans. Really interesting stuff. A really nice guy is Lee, and I found it fascinating. We had some good questions off of the listeners as well that we put to Lee, and he answers them wholly as well. So without further ado, let's crack on. Let's have a little review and talk about the press pack. Okay, diving in straight into the press pack then, and some really interesting coverage across the media and social media as well. And I think we'll kick off with the social media side of things, because I guess the first big story to cover off, of course, is the Fishermania final. Great to have fans back, of course, held at Hayfield Lakes there over in Doncaster. I believe around 7,000 people visited and attended the final. And after last year, that's a great achievement. And to stand these events up is no mean feat, of course, and to get that many people around a fishery and be organised. So, massive kudos to the fishery and the team there. That is for sure. But what I did find quite interesting, and I'm sitting on the fence with this, so I haven't got a view either way in some respects, is the vitriol, really, that came out on social media following the event. Because the first thing, which I didn't really acknowledge a lot of, is that, where's the congratulations for Harry Bignell, who absolutely smashed the match. It's great to see a lesser known name, shall we say, compared to the lots of favourites on the bank, Bennett's, Jamie Hughes, Andy May, etc. A lot of big name anglers there who perhaps were expected to win. But of course, fishing's a funny old game, a peg with not a huge deal of history to it, but as it was stated on the day, there's a bar at a certain distance, about 14 meters. The fish seems happy on there, and Harry absolutely smashed it. So I didn't see a huge amount of congratulations. All I saw, which stood out like a sore thumb, and I've got it in front of me now, was a post by Fishermania's page, which says, "Another incredible #Fisho in the bag. We love seeing all the fans back after 2 years away." And then there's a little video clip of all the action condensed into a sort of like a minute's worth. And underneath, it's just the stuff that's in there. A little bit biased towards my mate, old Keith Arthur. Of course, he's done 2 of these podcasts. There's a lot of stuff directed towards himself, negative, I must say. Lots of talk around the coverage being very poor, not much fishing being shown. Andy Kinder comes out pretty well on a lot of the comments. But, even in there, there's not a, well done, Harry, for winning the match. It's all about how poor, allegedly, Sky was at showcasing the event. Now, whether, my opinion is irrelevant, really. But what I would say is that there seems to be a lack of knowledge as well, in terms of, or I guess, not a lack of knowledge, that's probably the wrong way of putting it, a lack of understanding around this event. So Fishermania is on Sky Sports, which of course is a massive platform. And sadly, it's not a massive platform just for anglers. So what some people need to appreciate, I think, is that when the coverage is talking about how a method feeder works, or how a fish, perhaps intercepts a bait on a slap or a pellet waggler cast, etc. Although to you and I and the match anglers get it, and it's like, oh God, why is he talking about this? This is for the non-angler that could perhaps be watching. We've got to remember that this is a spectacle for all, and it's not just aimed at match anglers. Got to appeal to everybody watching. So I think some of the comments are not acknowledging that part of it. Another part as well is that, Keith and Callum Dixter were the two experts in closed brackets that were being asked the questions by Rob Palmer, who has hosted it now for 26 years, so he knows what he's doing. Those questions are not, they're going to come across in layman's terms as well. And the guys can only answer what they're being asked. The guys can only talk when they're being put in front of the camera. They are not chosen how long they're going to be, in front of the camera for. I mean, those guys were stood on the feet for pretty much sort of 7 hours of the whole day as well. I'm sure they wanted to have a sit down, a cup of tea, and let the fishing be showcased more than it probably was. Some of the cutaways, I think, were lacking a little bit. The sound wasn't as slick as probably it used to be, and a few profanities were caught in the background, but that's the nature of live TV, I'm sure. So yeah, I was pretty much shocked really in terms of the amount of comments on here about the coverage and about how poor apparently Sky Sports covered this, and how BT would do a better job and the bank would be more passionate. These are all comments I'm reading now off of Facebook, and there's a lot of experts on there that are predicting how the coverage would be from a rival broadcaster. But there we go. A real interesting, I guess it just shows the power of social media. Everybody can whack their opinion on straight away, whether it's a considered opinion or not, I'm not too sure. But yeah, absolutely. Let's just remember, this isn't just a show just for match anglers, sadly. This is Sky Sports. There's going to be lots and lots of people watching it that have perhaps never fished before. So we need to put it across in a way that that comes across in layman's terms. Moving away from social media then, and I will end on massive congratulations to Harry Bignell on winning that match, which a lot of people fail to do on social media. Moving on then to the printed press, into Matchfishing magazine. And some of the things that caught my eye, first of all, in the July edition, page 8, straight in, chap Richie Tamala, Welsh international. He's fishing on a water. It's literally a nice, robust stroll away, around a mile or so from my house. It's called Avalon Park Lake. And he's fishing the slider. And the reason why it stood out for me is because I did a short video in April time, fishing the slider. And really, it was all about sort of after I'd done my podcast with Ian Eaps. It's just, it's a method that's synonymous with him, and it's something I wanted to demonstrate how easy it is really compared to what some people think about the slider. And Richard is exactly the same here, and he puts a nice net of bream together in Avalon Park, which actually is more of a specimen water now. A lot of the anglers on there tend to only focus on the carp, so it's good to see that there's still plenty of bream and skimmers in there, even though there's been a process of destocking taking place on there too. Loads and loads of good instructional stuff in match fishing this month. Really, really good. A nice piece from Emma Jawed where he's talking about sorting the wheat from the chaff, getting those quality silvers out of the shoal, and that was a good one. The feeder fishing piece, which I quite like the flow of match fishing, the way that it's become as well, where you've got the separate sections of, you've got your instructional features, of course, but then you've got a separate feeder section as well, which condenses everything because feeder fishing is such a big piece now. And to have its own section just demonstrates that really. They've even got, there's probably one for the tackle shed, but these dual-eyed XD distance feeder rods from MAP, the review of that is in the feeder piece. So that's quite interesting how they've mixed the advertisements into this feeder section as well. But beyond that, Small talk is a pole fishing section. So again, let's not forget that pole fishing was discontinued, but the way that they've introduced the pole fishing section, like the feeder one within match fishing, is very clever also. And the specific feature on pole fishing on this month's article is with Stu Redman, fishing a place called Lovell's Lakes down Cambridgeshire way, and he's showing whip fishing and how to put together, a small fish approach that he's refined over time. And he's using one of those classic sort of whip wagglers that I've not come across for ages. I've got some old image ones somewhere in a box that's perfect for whip fishing. And what he's doing is he's fishing a waggler, or he's got a standard pole float setup as well. But shows you how he's got that strung bulk, the way it sort of goes through the water, and it's really interesting the way he hooks his dead maggots as well, because it allows him to then catch a lot more than one fish, and he's sort of double hooking it going through the side, through the shank, and then you re-hook it along the body. It's a little bit like how, if anybody sea fishes, the way that you would hook a luggy or a ragworm, or you go through the body, put it up the shank, and then sort of hook through the middle. And he's put a cracking net of silver together. Usual suspects: roach, rudd, perch, feeding a sloppy consistency of ground bait over the top. Just classic fishing. Really enjoyable style of fishing as well. Just skipping through to, yes, this was one of my favourite articles as well, because our old friend there, Darren Cox, he has fished a festival down there at Tamar Reservoir, and do you know what, this Upper Tamar Lake, it looks a fantastic venue. It really does. Now, he's done really well on this recent festival, and he's talking through some of the tips and tricks that he used to enable. Essentially, it seems that fish aren't difficult to catch there. It's how you get the bigger stuff, and it's how you consistently catch. And he talks through this as he goes through, and he's got a list of where he finished 8th overall in this Sonia Bates Festival. Gaz Lambert won it with Michael Buckwalder second, Ship third. So in very, very good company. And he's talking about how he's put these nets together and the lessons that he's learned. Even the likes of stepping down to half-ounce tips and things like this, and the types of rods to use, when to use braid, when not to, etc. So very, very good article. It's a place I'd love to fish. I'm not the greatest feeder angler at all, but I think even I could catch a few. Nowhere near as many as these guys, but lovely natural water fishing. From the natural water fishing to the old commercials, and my favourite method on commercials this time is absolutely fishing paste. I have my way of fishing the paste, which I've learned. I've took cherry-picked bits from the top anglers over the time, I guess, over the years, and I never fail to read anything or watch anything when it comes to paste, because there's always stuff to learn on it. And it's Andy Findlay. He's at the back on page 94 of Matchfishing, talking through his paste approach. It is slightly different to mine in that he uses no shot. He uses the same float pattern between 3 and sort of 8 foot. He's using a Sonu 1-to-1 mix as well, talking about how he puts it together. Very direct way of fishing. He's the master at paste, isn't he? The only thing, of course, is that he does a lot of his features at the glebe, as do a lot of anglers. And my experience of the glebe, I fished it a lot, is that we can all do very, very well at the glebe. So it's you're always going to get a good catch shot, that is for sure. And to be fair, most approaches will work on the glebe. So I'm not too sure how much it proves, but we know it works and it catches fish. And the good thing, I guess, for me for pace is it does single out better stamp fish also. I always find that it takes a little while to get it going if you're using it as your main approach, but yeah, once they come, they really do rock up, and he's demonstrated that on that last feature. So that's very, very good. Improve your course fishing. We've got 2 of these to cover off. Issue 379, which is the latest one, goes from end of July to end of August, and then 378, which was end of June to end of July. So starting with that one, the last version. Again, for me, Improve Your Course Fishing is probably the most underrated magazine. Everybody probably thinks match anglers, like most of our listeners are, probably think, oh, it's not for me. It's more for beginners. It's not. I can promise you that. There's lots and lots to learn. And coming into this one here, even just nice articles. There's one here, page 24, guy Rich Wilby, who's a former Drennan Cup winner for specimen fish, just around catching better stamped tench. If you've got a pleasure session free, or you've got a gravel pit or a water that holds these big whoppers, what he's talking about here is approaching tench on carp venues. So not necessarily places that match anglers would visit, but a lot of us have those types of venues nearby, and we give it a miss because we're not after specimen fish. But there's all sorts that lurk in there, whether it be big bream, whether it be tench. He's talking about using a method feeder, which we're all familiar with. Yeah, he's using a buzzer approach, and there's a braid element to it as well. But we usually talk about double figure tench here. So even that's just a nice read, even if you're not going to give that a go. But then into sort of bream fishing and more of a match style. Tony Curd, he's down there at the classic Willow Park down in Surrey, and he is fishing for big old slabs on a cage feeder. And again, it's a venue that's synonymous with lots and lots of bream. Good, what's the word? Established shoals, talks you through his setup, through his tactics, his rigs, and of course his feeding as well. And again, that's just a nice way to remind ourselves, if you're going to attack these estate style lakes for these established bream, a good way to go about it. He does have a go with a hybrid as well, so he mixes it up a little bit. Good article, good read. Lots of tips and tricks in here, a refined pellet waggler tactic as well. But this is quite a good one. Half a pint of pellets, please. So this one's from Tom Bainbridge, just in the Fish Hole final that we've just been discussing. And all he's got to do is catch a net full of snake lake fish, essentially using half a pint of pellets. And I think we've all had these little challenges, and we think about, and I'll touch on this in a second as well, the Winning Ways channel, talk about social media, which is the Andy May and Jamie Hughes channel Rich Chapman runs. And those challenges that those guys do are, real good fun. And this is a similar sort of theme, really, And, well, he goes and does exactly what it says on the tin. He catches a net full of small carp, shows you how to do it. And I think the moral of the story is, you don't need tons and tons of bait to put together a reasonable net of fish. So that's a nice little article to have a read of as well. Latest version, so this is pretty much just hit the doorstep. There's a nice piece here. If you are thinking, and we'll cover this in the tackle shed as well, thinking of taking somebody fishing, because this is now National Fishing Month, of course. It began last weekend, and it runs right the way through to the end of August, where there's lots of initiatives. Take a friend fishing, where you can get a free Environment Agency rod license for a friend. Lots of fisheries are doing 2 for 1, of course. And sometimes I think we get concerned of, are they going to get bored if I take someone along? Are they going to stand on my rod, break a pole section, whatever it may be? And Sarah Taylor, another finalist of the Next Gen Fishermania final just gone. So Sarah Taylor does a piece here on how to get beginners going, or it's called Mixed Bag with Ease, the fun way to get a net full. And she's fishing, quite simply, a whip to hand. So pretty much cheap and cheerful, 3.5 meter whip to hand. She shows you, what whole rig to put together. And she's got a lovely net of fish of crucians, roach, rudd, the usual suspects, and sort of how to go about putting these together. A couple of pints of maggots with a whip, nice simple rig, and it's a perfect way to introduce somebody into the sport. For me, if I took somebody straight away onto a commercial and their first fish is a sort of 3-4 pound carp, I'm not sure that's quite the right way to go, because the expectation levels are pretty high straight away. I think doing something like whip fishing on a canal, on a more of a natural water, or a silver pool at a commercial, introduces them to the sort of small fishing and to understand the species a little bit better. And also that way of competition, getting the fish into a bit of a free feeding frenzy by little and often, and gradually building up from that first roach or perch through to better stamp, and then moving on to the sort of the carp family, if you like. And I think that's a better way to go, and it does build things. But each to their own. Just get people onto the bank and get them fishing. That's the one for me. Throughout then, you've got a couple of different tactics and techniques, of course. There's a really good one with angling photographer Tim Prosser. So it's called Open Your Mind with Bankside Photography. I think we've all been there when we've been out pleasure fishing, or we've caught something. There's been nobody around to take a catch shot for you. So some tips and tricks from Tim here of how to go about composing the ultimate catch shot, really catch and release as well in some respects. Here he uses an example of putting a barbel back. It's talking about smartphone pictures. It's talking about what essentials to take with you, etc. And I know this from doing the filming for the Teddy Fisher baits, is that you can sometimes be taking more camera kit than your fishing kit. So you don't want to go down that route too much. But if you are out on a pleasure session or you've just finished a match, you want to get that, shot of a lifetime, if you like, that memory of a lifetime, then there's some really good tips here. And that's why I like Improving Course Fishing, because it's got these types of slightly different articles and features in here. So that is a little look at the printed press. If you haven't done, pick yourselves up a copy of those monthly mags. Have a little scan online. I did just mention as well Winning Ways with Rich Chapman, Andy May and Jamie Hughes. Some of the challenges that they've been getting up to. One of the last ones I watched was they bought this pole and rod setup off of Wish, which if you're unaware of what Wish is, it's like a cheap and cheerful Chinese import company, if you like. And let's just say sometimes the products arrive and they're not quite what the description was, and they're trying to catch the biggest fish on the rod setup and the biggest fish on the pole setup. And I won't spoil it for you. You can go online and have a little look. There's a subscription piece on there as well, which is, a lot of anglers are doing that. These top boys now, they're doing subscription channels, and don't blame them. Good on them. But yeah, it's they trying to slap a 6 milli pellet on one of these poles to hand is interesting, to say the least. So yeah, that would be my YouTube channel of the month, that is for sure. And I would say my magazine of the month is, pay your money and take your choice, Matchfishing and Improve Your Course Fishing. Very good for the month of July going into August. So that is the press pack. Now it's time to have the big chat.
For all your fishing needs, be sure to check out Fishing Evolution. Boasting 2 floors of branded displays, visit our recently expanded superstore at Hadley Road in Sleaford, where we offer a huge range of tackle from all of the leading course and carp brands, such as Nash, Fox, Corda, Drennan, Preston, Guru, Daiwa, and many, many more. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we share all of the latest news and updates about products available in store.
Okay, welcome to the big chat. And on this episode, we've got a real treat for you, because for some time I've been looking for a river specialist, if you like, in terms of hitting June the 16th. River season's open. Who can I get? Who can I speak to? 2018 Riverfest champion, and in general, all-round natural expert and matrix-backed man. It's Mr. Lee Wright. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. That's a very nice introduction, isn't it?
Not bad, that, is it?
I'm a very humble person, so that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Not a problem. Just send me the tenner in postal orders.
All right, dude.
Now, listen, mate, it's good to chat. Like I say, then on that piece, with the rivers up and running, I've been trying to get somebody who is a bit of an expert so they can answer questions and queries from customers, but I think that would be unfair to sort of bunch you in with this natural angler piece. I mean, you can fish everywhere, can you not?
Yeah, pretty much, mate. I've done everything, fishing wise, like match fishing wise. Anyway, never branched off into sea fishing or anything like that. But certainly, when it comes to competitions, fished on commercials, rivers, drains, canals, everything, you name it. Sort of done it type of thing over the years. Yeah. I've been match fishing now. I think I started, and I was fishing against like blokes, if you like, when I was about 13. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm 37 in a couple of weeks. So, I've been doing it a while. So,
not far
yeah,
off
yeah,
a quarter of a century.
It makes you slightly depressed when you think about it like that, anyway.
It does, mate, it does. But no, it's really good. And actually, one of these things, Lee, with the theme of these podcasts, if you've not heard any before, we have a sort of a past, present and future concept as we go through. So okay. I think that's actually a nice way to start. How did you start fishing yourself?
Right. Well, it's the old classic of my dad first got me into it, as it did with like many other anglers. Like I probably first went. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember my actual age, but I think it was like 5 or 6 when my dad first took me. And like my mum was always like, "You can't go fishing until you can swim," type of thing. And my dad at the time, he was a big river fisherman. You know, he used to love going on the rivers. So I started there, and basically went out with him whenever I could. Like literally got the bug instantly. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always loved the outdoors anyway. Still do. But it's like, it's just a real sort of like natural thing for me to do. I just enjoy being outside. So yeah, started with him, and then just from there, really, just went pleasure fishing like with my dad for ages, until it was sort of like at an age where I was like kind of old enough to be left alone a bit more. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I did used to like sneak off down the canal in the 6-week holiday and stuff like that from school. Like I used to like ride my bike down there, like tackle on my back, you know, and just, you know, that sort of like got more and more prominent, if you like, if that's the right word. I got more and more into it the more that I went. Do you know what I mean? And I actually it sounds a bit I suppose daft, but like I actually really enjoyed going on my own as opposed to like with my dad. It's probably like an age thing, and I was growing up, and do you know what I mean?
Independence, getting your independence.
Exactly, yeah. And I did used to like it, but I spent ages down there when I was a kid, like just on the local canal. It was like literally 10 minutes on a bike from my house, and that was the river area wash. I went on the Trent as well, an odd time. Yeah, not that I had much clue apart from like what my dad had told me, but he was like very traditional sort of like stick float angler, do you know what I mean, that type of thing. Hated fishing a feeder, so like I didn't sort of learn those skills until I sort of like progressed. And sort of speaking of that, my mum and dad obviously realised that I really liked it, so and then they wanted to get me like better, if you like. So the thing to do was to then join like a small club. So I joined Derby Juniors, as they was known then, which were for me like it brought me on loads, and like the people there, like literally I cannot thank them enough. They were so helpful. Literally like go out of their way to do everything for you. Like John and George, like all of them, they were just brilliant. You didn't like very often have to pay for your bait and stuff like that.
Really?
Just like little things like that. Yeah, they just provided things for you, and it was always there giving you tips and things and saying I could do this better. So that was like massive step up for me, that was. And that just like it just made me want to go even more. And then I sort of got the competitive side of it as well, because obviously they then, you know, it was like about fishing matches and things in competitions, and then that was it. Then I was just like, this is awesome, this is what I love, type of thing. And I used to go like all the time. They ran like a little Monday night league, I remember, on the Trent and Mersey Canal, and that was, you know, absolutely brilliant, you know, just like short little 3-hour matches. I remember my mum and dad like literally like running backwards and forwards after us, because I've got 2 brothers as well, and like Martin used to play guitar. He still does, but he used to like have guitar lessons literally like half an hour after I wanted to like be there to like go and fish on a Monday night. And then like David had football training, and it was just like they just ran for us, as you do for your kids. You know, you would do. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was great. Them days were fantastic, and I've still, even now, like some of the lads that I fish with then are still like about on the same circuits. Like, you know, like Mike Bedding is one, Rob Aldred, Barry Jones, Richard Packwood, loads of them that still go fishing. So it was like, obviously they got the bug the same as me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys, I can't thank them enough for like what they did for like me as a youngster. You know.
No, absolutely. Do your brothers fish, by the way?
No, they don't, mate. No, not massively. Martin like would come and like sit with me, and he says, "Oh, I'll come and watch you on Riverfest this year, or whatever." And he's good like that, but he's not got the patience for it, and neither is David. They both like got zero patience, whereas I've got loads.
It's funny. I love this section because I always start this part with everybody, because I mean, we're not going to necessarily talk tactics and all the stuff that we would see you in the media for on the Matrix channel or whatever. It's very sort of tactical. It's very sort of technical, and these chats, these chats see the man. They see what you're all about. You know, who you are as a person. Yeah. It's different because everybody's got their own journey of where they sort of come from, and the important message, I think, so I'm exactly the same. I think loads of people listen to this. I'm the same. I had a canal down the road from me. I used to get on my bike, exactly the same. I'd go down. So where did it all go wrong for me? How did you get to where you are? And how come I'm stuck at sort of a club level? But the point is, joining a club as a junior is such an important thing. Yeah. It's a great stepping stone.
It gives you that stepping stone, doesn't it? And then, like, you know, from there, it allows you to then progress because you've already got the sort of confidence behind you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then people pushing you on all the time, and like all the mums and dads used to come down and everything, and
social.
It was quite, it really was. It was like really friendly and just nice. I mean, like the national days were the best. They were like, that was like something that you'd like wouldn't sleep at night. Like I can remember it. I used to love them, absolutely love them, because it was like obviously in the days where you used to get on a bus and things like that, and they were brilliant like them days, and they used to like do you like a packed lunch and stuff, and like so you know you wouldn't go hungry, and like drinks and everything. You just used to sort you out. It was amazing, really amazing, and fantastic people, absolutely fantastic people.
You mentioned two old boys there. Are they still with us? George, is it? And
so George is not. Anne, his wife, is, I do believe. I've not spoken to her for quite some time, but John, I do speak to over social media quite a lot. John was like the coach, you know, and everybody like that I know, like, you know, that has come through Derby Juniors will still call him that, you know. It's like his little name type of thing. But he loves to see us doing well. Do you know what I mean? He's like, I think he gets a nice sense of pride in that, which is lovely, and he should take pride in it because they did so much for us. You know, it was amazing.
No, I love it. So what was your? Do you remember your first match win? Was that as a junior or was that a little bit older?
I'm trying to think. Like, I distinctly remember one match, albeit a little bit controversial.
Go on.
It was actually in a club. I'm not going to say the name of the club, but it was in a club that was fairly local to me on a canal, and they allowed me to fish this match, and I was like, I think it was like 13, 14 at the time, because this is like, obviously when I'd started going to Derby Juniors for a little bit, and like I've got some confidence, and my dad obviously knew other anglers for going in the tackle shop, things like that. Yeah. And so like I got on this match anyway, and I ended up winning it, and they were like, they wouldn't pay me out because I was too young, and they was all going, oh no, can't pay him out. And like my dad, I can remember my dad coming back, and he was like, what do you mean you won't bloody pay him out? It's that the other, and it was like, right, that's it, get back in the van, we're going, like, you're not coming in. And it was like, it was that I distinctly remember that as like a young memory. Do you know what I mean? And I was a bit bewildered by it. I was a bit like, well, I was a bit like, well, I don't mind because I've won anyway. Do you know what I mean? I loved the fact that I won because I had like a 10-meter pole at the time, and I actually caught like on a little dibber, and I was like flicking it to the other side of the canal because I couldn't reach the far side. And I was
long lining, brilliant.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That's what I was doing, and I caught like some perch and some knife roach and stuff. And I think I only had about like £5.5, £6, something like that. It wasn't a lot, but yeah, I can remember all these other lads kicking off, and like some of them were like, "Oh no, you need to." That's like, "Is he on that?" Blah, 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 this, that, and the other bit. But junior matches wise, I can't, David, honestly, I can't actually remember off the top of my head the first one that I actually won. Like I did used to do well. Like, and I'm very, like I said to you before, I'm very humble. I'm very like, I don't like to blow my own trumpet. I'm not that type of person. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm a bit like reserved about things like that.
No, that's fine. Absolutely, nice quality.
I just like don't like to be. I don't like other people thinking of me like I'm shy and spouting and like, oh yeah, I have to do this and that. And I've never been like that. Do you know what I mean?
That's probably to do with that grounding that you had with the club as well. I bet John and those lads were saying, you know.
Yeah. It probably has been. It's it's to do with a lot of different things, isn't it? Your character and like. It's how you brought up and everything, and it was always very polite. Yeah, that sort of thing. So
we're moving then from sort of juniors into progressing. Then I guess coming a little bit more modern times. What was the next step after juniors? Was it opens and then teams? I mean,
So what I did, there was a guy. So when I was fishing in Derby Juniors, Alan, a guy called Alan Wright, older chap. He's actually won a couple of nationals. He's a good angler. He still goes fishing now, actually. He's been around like literally forever, but he's a lovely bloke. But he used to take me on matches. So like I'd go on like odd open matches with him, and he obviously saw some potential in me, so he was like, would you like to join the team, which was at the time Long Eaton Van der Nine they were called. So that was like a sort of local team. And obviously it was like, again, another big step up for me. And I was only like 14, something like that. I wasn't very old. So like, and then obviously I got fishing with those lads and stuff, and like I did, fish some bigger matches like Super League, running Super League, things like that. So then I was like coming into like contact with these other anglers that I'd not even, I suppose, really heard of, because apart from like reading the Angling Times and like fishing magazines, I think they were starting to come out around that sort of time. That was the only sort of source of like getting access to other information and like
YouTube,
other anglers. Do you know what I mean? It was just it was like non-existent, mate. It was it didn't happen like that. So to then like sort of start seeing some of them on matches and things, and like I remember doing like a little bit of bank running and things like that, and then there was fished at Winter League matches and stuff. I don't actually think I was allowed to fish this Winter League match because I was too young, but
probably
people. I think the age limit's like 16 or something. But it happened, and that's it's in the past now, so I suppose it's not really that important. But yeah, we from there, it was a case of just then like learning off all these other people, and like Alan did a lot for me because he would take me to matches, and a few of the other lads did as well that was in the team, like Colin Beach, Dean Guess, who all still fish now. They still fish on the same circuit, like around here and that, and still obviously I've got a lot of time for him. Because like as a young lad, like, and obviously my mum and dad, they couldn't take me as much as I wanted to go. Do you know what I mean? Because it was, you know, I suppose fishing takes up the whole day, doesn't it? As you know, it's not like you go like to a football match or something for an hour or two, and then you come back.
No, that's right.
It's like you're out first thing in the morning, you come back last thing at night, and like some of the guys that used to take me, especially like Colin and that, used to like drink in the pub and like get home at like
all day, isn't it? Yeah, make a day of it. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, but my mum and dad, you know, they knew they knew them, and they knew I was an insane fan. So yeah, I like sort of went from there, and then started to, you know, obviously bit fishing these bigger matches and stuff, and it was like massive learning curve, as you can imagine. But I like at that time, and I'm actually still quite like it now. I'm a bit like a sponge, you know. Like I just like someone tells me something, and if it's something I enjoy doing or like that I'm interested in, and my wife will probably tell you this as well, because like she gets dead frustrated with me. Because if it's anything to do with like fishing or like the outdoors or climbing or anything like that, I love it, and like I can remember anything about it. But if it's to do with like, say, I don't know, like, can you put that washing out tomorrow or something like that, I'll forget to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like
we're all the selective memory.
Yeah, I guess it is. So yeah, it was then, like I say, a case of, you know, absorbing all that information, taking it on and trying to get myself better, you know, progressing sort of like as much as I possibly could. I mean, it took me a long time, do you know what I mean? Like to like learn a lot of different things, because we're learning like loads of different techniques on different venues, like
the variety of waters you've got.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like I remember one distinct memory is actually fishing in a Winter League semi-final on the River Weaver when I was 15 years old, and I remember like going down there and everything, and we were practicing, and like we've got some bits and bobs sorted, and like it was like massive for me. And in that match, on the day, like it had a load of cold water coming to it. I really remember it, distinctly remember it. And I blanked. I never had a bite, and that it's like that sort of like lives with me forever. But I was in the mindset of I'm never going to let that happen again, type of thing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people did on that match at that time. It was just one of those days, but I will always remember it. And like, if I could go back there now, like I know I'd catch some fish, but at the time I didn't have enough knowledge, and you know, I was very young, so you know,
get it totally,
It's, you know, and like I say, it's just sort of progressing from there, mate. Really, onto bigger and better things. And like, if you want me to go into that, I can go into that, and like just tell you where I went.
Okay, we can go into that in the sort of evolution of your team fishing, absolutely. But just before we sort of talk about that, I mean, you're probably not aware, but I moved to the Midlands, if you like. I'm probably about an hour from you, mate, to be fair, about 18 months ago. So I'm just sort of Lincolnshire way. And what I've found as I've been getting back into fishing rivers, fishing more natural venues. I mean, fished my first match on a river in 20 years a couple of weeks ago. So that was interesting on your local river Soar.
Very well.
Well, what I found is loads of people are way more open than from where I'm from. I'm from Manchester. The scene is there's a lot of commercial waters, and there's not as many venues. So maybe places like Partridge, as an example, where we're getting 70, 80 on a midweek open. Maybe people hold on to those little tips and tricks a bit closer. I mean, have you found everybody's been open with you?
Yeah, I think you get a couple of different types of anglers, Dave. To be honest, like I would like you get people that are very open. And then you will get people who are quite reserved and like will kind of only really tell you something if you know them really well.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think anglers are generally quite a helpful bunch, and like they like to sort of help each other, and it like, you know, they like, you know, socialising back at the pub, that stuff. I'd definitely say more so on like more natural venues and stuff. That is the case. Not that that there's a persona around commercial fishing or anything. I really don't believe that. I mean, I've done it myself, but certainly people are a little more not as forthcoming with information, like when it's sort of like based around a commercial. But that is, I suppose, because of like the intensity of it, and I don't want to like kind of dig myself a hole here and like say the wrong thing.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's hard to explain,
but they don't. It can be harder to get a piece of information off somebody or ask somebody about their day than it can say, like, you walk down the river and what you caught, and then people say, oh, well, I've had this, that, or I've had a roost day, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking about it right. I don't know.
Well, I'm the same as you. I'm thinking, this is the way I see it. We're going a bit of a tangent here, that's fine. So I see it sort of that when we're fishing a commercial, we know that the general flyers, in general, isn't it? We know, apart from real severe changes in temperature, it's probably going to fish pretty similar to the last match. So we've got an idea of what we're fishing for.
Follow the wind a lot and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. Like corners.
Whereas we're fishing a river, a canal, you're never in the same piece of water at the same time anyway, because it's moving. Correct. We know that we're going to have, there are noted features and flyers on rivers, of course there is.
Yes, of course.
But maybe it's just that whatever when you're forthcoming with the information, you think, well, it may or may not work because it's a river and because it's different, or it's a canal and it's moving. Whereas a commercial, it pretty much, if I tell you this, you might well go and win this match. I don't know. Maybe it's like that.
It is, yeah. I suppose it's because it's more regimented. A commercial, like everything's like dug virtually the same, isn't it?
Good word,
like it's like a snake lake, say, for example, whereas, like you say, a river, his peg could be deeper than my peg. My peg can have more flow than his peg. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different variables to it that, like, even on the same day, how you've caught might not be how you'll catch, like, 5 pegs upstream of you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not that like that. Whereas, I suppose a commercial, it is a bit more like that. There will be a certain method on a certain day, like it's like changes in bait and stuff when you go to a commercial. It's like people that go 3-4 times in a week, they are so switched on to like knowing what's going to work at what time. Like they'll know when something's going to change, like whether it'll be like meat, for example, or worms will come into it, or that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's that gives you an edge. I suppose it's a little bit more to do with like watercraft on like an open, like especially on a river, I would say, more so than like an open lake or like a gravel pit or anything like that, or canal. Definitely there's more like watercraft to it because you have so much more to think about. Do you know what I mean? Like your bait's not going to land in the same place all the time. It will change. Do you know what I mean? The flow changes, the wind. There's so many different things that can have an impact on your day. So I suppose without going off on a massive tangent, that is like basically what the difference is in a way, and maybe that is like coming back to your question, why people aren't perhaps as forthcoming with information. But there's some, I know loads and loads of live fish commercials and stuff, and they're all absolutely sound and they'll tell you anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, then but you'll get it the same on a natural venue. You do get certain people that like won't tell you a thing. Like they literally won't tell you, or like.
It's horses for courses, I guess, isn't it? It's just, maybe I'm overthinking it a wee bit. It's just my experience in that.
I don't know. I mean, I've been brought up like in my sort of fishing career, like there's some certain people that I've come into contact with, John being one, Ivor Marks being another, that they are the type of people that give everything to somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have no reason to hold anything back. And like, I feel like it's in my nature anyway to be like that. So that's how I am with people. Like, anyone asks me something on the bank, like, you know, I will tell them. I'll tell them exactly what I think. You know what I mean? I'm not a type of person that's going to hold something back. But I think it is more down to personality than anything. And
could be. It's interesting because it's funny because we're a similar age. I'm a little bit older than you, not by much at all. And that sort of upbringing that we've just been talking about in terms of the canal and club fishing and somebody taking you under the wing and all the rest of it. And I think over the years, you can work out pretty quickly there's a few blaggers as well, of course, you know, everywhere. But you can. But I've just found that people are a lot more open with their info in these sort of areas, and especially on the rivers.
You know, because I'm from round here, I might not actually see that because I don't then go to I don't travel like 2 miles. For 2 hours up north somewhere or 2 hours down south to go and fish a different match. You know what I mean? I've got that much fishing around me on my doorstep that I don't really need to. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose I'm not really going to come into contact with that as such. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love it, mate. It's
people
like,
are how they are, aren't they?
I love it because for me, to learn or to get some of the information I've got from some of these waters near me, if I'd have just done it alone and done it on my own, it'd take me years and years, you know, to find these places and to start. But now people are saying, "I'll try this, go there, this works that time of the year," and all the rest of it. So, it's saving me a bit of time because I reckon it'd take me 10 years to try and get, like you say, the waters are just, there's loads to go out, which is fab.
There is, like, literally, and like where I live, I've got so many different bits of water around me. It's ridiculous. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a pleasure angler, it's like amazing. Really, to be fair, very lucky in that respect. Very lucky.
Well, before we go on to back to the team fishing part where we was up to, let's talk a little bit about other disciplines. Do you do a bit of carp fishing? Do you do a bit of barbel? Do you do anything out of match fishing?
No, mate. To be fair, I very, very, very rarely go pleasure fishing. The only time I go pleasure fishing is with my dad. Like that's literally it. And you know, I suppose if he wants to like go and learn something or something like that, or he wants like some advice on something, you know, I'll go out with him. You know, I owe him a lot to my dad as it is anyway. So, we do like, but we'll only go sort of like perhaps twice a year, something like that, 3 times a year. But I don't do any like other specific types of fishing, like specifically carp fishing or trout fishing or, you know, that sort of thing.
Time as well, isn't it, mate? You've got a young family, like me. It's difficult.
It is time. That is absolutely correct. I like to, in my fishing and my you know, my home life, I like to try and have a balance with it. I don't want to be at the house all the time away from my daughter. I love spending time with her. So if I can balance it out and make it work, which we do very, very well. I've got a very, very supportive wife. She's amazing. And, you know, she lets me do like what I want to do, like fishing wise and stuff. But like equally, I don't take the mickey, and like you know, I just go as much as I feel like I kind of need to or want to. Do you know what I mean? And that's it, mate. Really. So like my other time is really, I suppose, spent with my daughter or working. You know, like I've got like a manual job, so like I'm always grasping and stuff. You know, to obviously provide for my family. Yeah. It's very important to me.
Good values. Sometimes it does translate to your fishing because you can be. It makes you appreciate it more. Even so, you know, it's like
absolutely, mate. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, let's skip back a wee bit then to the team fishing. So we said Van der Nine, Long Eaton. Where do we go from
Van der Nine, yes. So, yeah. So from there, mate, really, took me a little while to progress. I was asked by a couple of teams around the same time, but there was one team in our winter league. So we always used to fish the Soar Valley Winter League, which is, still running now. It's all on the River Soar, on the natural sections and the, some more of the canalised bits. And that was like a really good grounding for me as an angler, because I learnt loads from it. But so from fishing with Long Eaton, I then got asked by, at the time it was Quorn, they were Quorn Vandenine, and also Leicester Census. That was, at the time, it was just after Steve Hemingway had left. I'm trying to think who was captain. I think it was Rob Jones at the time. But, they asked me, and Chris Marks used to fish with them, and Ivan used to do a little bit of fishing with him, and like help. He was like with his lad all the time. So I always looked up to both of those teams, but like Leicester was sort of like more where I wanted to be at the time. So I moved
think
to
that
Leicester.
Was born out of the whole Likely Lads thing, wasn't it? I think that
Probably
was the team that came from.
Yeah. I mean, they were a fantastic team. They used to they would win the Winter League more often than they wouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like me to just be asked, I was just like flipping out. This is like a massive step up type of thing. I can't quite remember the age I was when I went there, but I was certainly still very young. I probably wasn't even like 17 at the time. Probably maybe 16, around that sort of age. Something like that anyway, because I was with the Long Eaton Vandenine for a few years. So obviously I then went with them again. Fishing with better anglers, you learn a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I learned a vast amount again.
You did, yeah.
And Ivan at the time, bless him, he took me under his wing. Ivan was like this anyway, as many people will know.
Yeah.
That he was just a lovely, lovely man. What he did for me growing up, like, I always tell Chris this, and it's like, don't half on about it, but it's like, he did so much for me, and my fishing, that I can like never repay that. Do you know what I mean? It was, it was just amazing. He would come, like, he'd say, right, young'un, we're fishing this match, we're going here, like this, and he'd come to my house, he'd pick me up, take me, and then he'd be like, right, what bait have we got then today, and what you picked up, and like this, and he'd be like, all right, well, you need some more of this, you need some more of that. Right, go in the back. And he just used to, this van, it used to stink. And it was like, it had like maggots, casters crawling around in it, and like, oh, God knows what. And like a proper fishing wagon, you know what I mean? It was mint. But yeah, he just, he used to just give me bait and stuff, like, no, I don't want anything for it. No, don't want anything for it. Or like, he'd like give me like little bits of tackle, like hooks and things like that, like little bits and bobs, and said, all right, but he just taught me so much at my time at Leicester. Obviously before he, bless him, passed away. Yeah. He gave so much in like, and he did it for a lot of different people as well. He was very, very approachable, Ivan was.
Well, the people's champion.
He was amazing, mate. I can't tell you how much of a nice man that bloke was. He was amazing. And like, obviously I only got to know him, and I was thinking, like, at the time, I was like, this guy's an absolute legend. I was like, why is he coming to like pick me up and stuff all the time, like just things like this? But he did. He just took me. He's one of them people, and he just took me under his wing, and I learned loads from him, like about like bream fishing, especially, and rivers, different, just like loads of different things. I could talk all night about like different things he told me, or like in different situations. And
do you remember one top tip from him? Is there ever any one thing that stands out in your mind?
Yeah. It might sound really daft, to be honest.
They usually do. Top tips usually seem basic, and you think.
He said to me, and he said to me on many, many occasions, right? If you're fishing your match, right, and nothing's really working how you want it to, do something stupid. That's what he said.
Right.
Do something stupid. And at first I was like, what do you mean do something stupid? It was like, well, just, I don't know, chuck 3 pints of casters in down there, or do you know what I mean? Something stupid like that you'd never really think of doing.
Yeah.
But honestly, Dave, the amount of times something like that has then worked,
give us an example.
Then you're like,
tell me one that you did.
Heck, why is like that's unreal? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is that? Why would I be fishing like that in that way? And do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of a bloody example now. Well, the one that I suppose one of them that stands out in my mind is a match on the River Soar, and it was a winter league match, and it had been really cold, but the river had been up, and it had a little bit of colour in it, and I'd drawn this peg, and it was a renowned peg for catching chub, and like you would always catch chub off it.
Yeah.
I was like, literally, there was about an hour to go, and I know chub are like renowned for late feeders, but there was like an hour and a half to go, something like that. And I don't think I was blanking. I think I caught a few small fish, but I wasn't like winning the section. Do you know what I mean? And like, I remember Ivan coming down the bank, strolled down, and he's like bold up. He says, "Right, what's happening, young?" And I said, "Oh, this is blah blah blah." It was like, and I remember him saying it like, "Well, do something daft then and sort it out." And then he just totally off down the bank, and like I was like, "All right, okay, right." So I got off my box, and I remember setting up like a really, really like almost like a you know, like them little track floats you used to use on a canal for like caster fishing.
Yeah. Like
I set one of them up. It was like 4x12 or 4x14, right? And I put like it on a top 7, like on my pole, right? Got my pole up and that. I'd already been fishing for different bits and bobs in it, but I got my pole out. And I remember like where I'd been feeding like this bait on my stick float line. I thought that there was some fish there, and I knew that the fish lived there, but I wasn't catching them for whatever reason. So anyway, I've run this like little like light rig down, and it's absolutely ridiculous, and you'd think it would, but it wasn't. And I caught like 5 chub on it in the last.
So they wanted hour. It really. And it was
but it didn't make any sense for you to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I tell you what I did. I remember I took it off, right, and I tied it to my rod and line. Right, I bit my other stick float off, and I tied it onto my rod and line, and I tried to make it work with that, and it wouldn't work. And I thought that's why I already set it up on the pole, because I knew I'd be able to gain the control with it. And it was a bit weird and a bit wacky, but it worked. It was just like one of them sort of like prime examples. I mean, there are like obviously others like going back, and you know, probably more than I can remember, to be quite honest. But yeah, that was one thing he always said to me. It was
I love it.
Yeah, quite amazing, and something that a lot of people might not do as well. Do you know what I mean? Might not even sort of think of, but yeah, it works. Put it that way. It works. Not all the time, but it does.
No, I get it. So from Leicester, under the wing of Ivan, sort of getting into your later teens now. Was you there for some time, or was you then approached?
Yeah, I was there for quite some time actually, and around that sort of time, that's when I started having England. Like, you know, I was sort of getting pushed in that direction, and I had quite a few England trials. Never ever made it through.
This is England youth trials, right?
This is England youth trials. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So what class of who would you have been in with? Would that be like Callum Dix?
Yeah, Callum came a bit late because he's a little bit younger than me. Wright, Leif Thornton, quite a lot of them now actually don't fish at all.
Okay.
Like, you know, they don't even fish anymore. But at the time, you know, I mean, I'm under no illusions that these were the best young anglers in the country, and they are now some of the best anglers still in the country. Do you know what I mean? They are like awesome at what they do. And you know, it was very it was very hard to take in a lot of ways, to have that many knockbacks. Right, not good enough this year. So maybe next year.
Let's expand slightly on it, because just in case the listeners don't understand, I might be way off, but my understanding of the England youth trials, the youth trials were based on the venue that was going to be fished
Correct.
on that year.
Yes.
So
yes,
let's say
right.
you're on.
Yes.
It's due to be in Carouche, Portugal, as an example. It's a water that would be well known for waggler fishing, sticky mag, very hot conditions, this sort of angling. So was it that they were saying to you, you know, this isn't your style, or what were the knockbacks? Not
that, mate. Just like I don't know. I don't know what it was. There was a few different things, like and around the time, like, because I was always one of them that I would, if something wasn't working, I know it's me that's doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, totally. That's how I think. Yeah. And, like, I want to put it right. So, like, he was getting, I remember one match at Laughing, he was getting us all to fish a slider. Mm-hmm. And it was like firing out balls of ground bait on this slider and catching skimmers. And it was, I'm going back a long time ago. It was like soft ground bait, and, like, you know, all the fish were up in the water, and, like, you know, nobody was catching anything. And I'm like, why are we fishing like this? It was a bit like this, but I knew what he wanted us to do. And, like, I thought, well, I can do that. You know what I mean? I can hit my float with the ball of ground bait, like, pretty good. You know, I wasn't the best at it probably, but, like, I was okay. And, like, everything else I was doing and stuff, and, you know, you had to borrow gear off people, all them sort of things. And I think actually, more than anything, that is what let me down, because I wasn't in a position to have all the top gear. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, people like such as Ivan and Chris and, you know, numerous others would lend me bits and bobs to tackle, and, like, rods and things, and, like, top kits and different things, so you could, like, be presented that you could be ready to fish in that way. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't always have everything. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, I don't come from like a rich family or anything, and, you know, it's not like
just a normal lad trying to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I always thought a lot of the time it was about ability, and I think some of the time it was, but then in other times it wasn't as well. It was like, you know, can he afford to come? Do you know what I mean? Or, like, you know, that a bit of that. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I kind of felt, you know, when back in the day, and it was a lot when you were younger, you know, because, like, I wanted to do well, but I am actually quite competitive, really, I suppose. So
you've got to be to fish at your level, mate.
I can't, and I wouldn't let it beat me. Do you know what I mean? And I never have done. Do you know what I mean? I want to now, like, ever since then, and, like, them matches, like them, you know, going back to that one where I blanked on that, you know, the Winter League when I was 15, all them different things push you on more. What they do to me anyway, like, they push me on as an angler more. I need to sort that out. I need to get better at that. I need to be the best at that. I want to be the best at that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
oh, totally. It's so easy to make an excuse. It's so easy to say, do you know what? The fish weren't there. They're not in the area. I wasn't there.
It is. But, like, I did stuff, like, on some of them trials that, like, I suppose I was in a couple of ways as well, Dave. Like, I was a little bit naughty, and a bit, like, I would go against the grain a little bit and go, well, why are we all doing this when we need to be doing this? So, like, I'd start doing something else, and, like, I'd start catching loads of fish doing it, and then they'd be like, well, what are you doing that for? I'm not telling you to do that. And I'm like, well, but it's not working. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
So you think you're demonstrating
at the time, and they're like, I get on well with Mark now, but I think at the time he didn't used to like that attitude, and it might have been that. I don't know.
Well, you're trying to demonstrate that what the brief isn't the best for that day. So you're trying to be innovative. Yeah, exactly. You're trying to demonstrate that you've got the ability to adapt. But actually, from a management point of view, now we're a bit more older and looking back at that, you probably understand where Mark's coming from, because he said, well, actually, no, I need you to look at this technical on this event. But I'd have done the same as you. I have to say, I remember doing it on 2 trials where I was a bit like that, and like we were doing it for like, you fish 2 different sessions. You did one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and you fished like 2 different styles a lot of the time. So like in the morning it'd be like, say, I don't know, like long pole on the bottom, and then in the afternoon it's like shallow fishing at 5 meters, like with sloppy ground bait, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So, but like I've been fishing like an hour or something like that, and I'm like, oh God, there's loads of fish there. So like, why can't we catch them? Like, this is a bit daft. This is. Do you know what I mean? Like, why aren't we doing this? Like, so I'd like change what I was doing, and I was like, but my opinion is if I was sat in a world championships and something's not working, and I know if surely it won't put it wrong.
Yeah, I know exactly.
It's like, obviously you'd probably have to ask management and things like that, but as a youngster, you can be a little bit more gung ho with your decisions, can't you? Do you know what I mean? It probably wouldn't be like that now at all, but hey ho. But it gave me a lot of good grounding, for the future and stuff, and it definitely, some of those matches spurred me on to do better as well, without any doubt.
Do you have any designs to still want to represent your country?
Mate, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'd love to. It'd be amazing. Be absolutely fantastic. I'm well under the impression that, like, I know the standard of angling that you need to be at to even think about fishing that, and the level of commitment you've got to have for that fishing at that level. But if someone turned around to me tomorrow and said, "Would you like to come and come to the lads next year, and we'll look about getting you on board," I'd jump at the chance. Yeah. I wouldn't say no. You know what I mean? But I will always, in always with my fishing, I want to give 110% at it, and like I would love to do that, but I'm well aware that there's only a few spaces available, and there are anglers out there that are like better than me. So you have to be realistic with it as well. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's one of them. It's one of them. I'll leave it up to the gods to decide that one.
Absolutely. Let's touch a little bit then on, let's have it right. The England manager, Mark Downs, is your club captain now.
He is, yeah.
So
yes, you went between him and Darren Bickerton, yes, that is correct.
Yeah, who I drew next to yesterday, funnily enough. So with that in mind, obviously, how did that come about? Starlets are a iconic team. They
certainly are, yes.
As was your previous team in the Trentmen. So
yes, correct. Yes,
you fished for 2. Apart from Leicester, you've just mentioned then, which we all pretty well know, massive locally and done well on some division nationals. But Trentmen is another step up, and then Starlets is another step up. So how did you get to that sort of? How did we get to the present, if you like, team fishing?
I suppose it's just I don't know, just keep learning, mate, and like going through. Like my favourite thing to do as an angler is team fishing. That is, I absolutely love it. It's like absolutely. I don't think there's anything better that beats it than winning as a team with like your mates. It's amazing, absolutely amazing, and I love that feeling. And when I was asked to join Trentmen from from being at Leicester for quite a long time. You know, I was there a good while. I can't remember exactly how long, but I was, you know, then asked to join Trentmen, and like, I remember Darren, who was captain at the time, funnily enough, of Trentmen, and he asked me, and you know, Trentmen were, for me, growing up around here and like in the Nottinghamshire area, they were obviously like the team to want to fish for. They were like brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Used to look up to them when I was a youngster. You know, that's such a touch there. You know, like plumber neck, and like I used to like idolise them almost. So like to get to ask to fish for them, I was like, that's amazing. Like absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So I jumped at the chance, went straight there, didn't even question it. And, you know, again, from there, you know, learned a lot because the standard of angler again went up. Been some absolutely fantastic anglers go through Trentmen, like unbelievable, like talent. I could literally reel off the biggest list ever, you know, because every single one of them virtually is like brilliant in their own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what they were as well with Trentmen, they were like quite or really, really good individual anglers. So they were all able to think for themselves, which is what I found when I started fishing for them. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't about like, oh, we've got to fish to this plan, even though we did do quite a bit of that. But it was still like, you know, oh well, you know.
You had a level of autonomy like, to do what you needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. There was a bit of like an open thing, and I really liked that because that meant like it wasn't like literally free rein to go, right, I'm going to do fish my own way now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, you listen to the likes of Darren Victor, Mark Godfrey. There's so many people there that are just like that. You know, are brilliant anglers that you can't not listen to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there, mate, I learned bags and bags of Trentmen. I had some absolutely amazing times, some great laughs with them. They were always a great set of lads to go back to the pub and stuff like that, and just have a general laugh with. Do you know what I mean? Like, fantastic. Really were, amazing. And you know, you do get that a lot within team fishing, and you know, fishing that way, it seems to be a lot more prominent. But yeah, so from there, I was with them. Goodness me, I can't even remember how long days, to be honest, but a long time again. It's showing my age now, I suppose, a little bit. But from there, I did actually captain Trentmen for a bit, and I was like, you know, between myself and at the time Tom Scully, and we were trying to bring like younger lads into it and like get things like try and create a really, really good team of like young, enthusiastic anglers, and like, you know, trying to push for
things.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of worked, and then it just like the team fishing was like, it just seemed to be like coming off and off and off and off. It's not on I don't actually think it's on a downward spiral. I just think there is more choice out there for people to go fishing now. That there's too much choice. So like you can go and do whatever you want to do as an individual. Do you know what I mean? Like you can just pick your matches basically. Whereas like going back sort of like 10, 15 years, it was completely different. But yeah, you know, team fishing's always been in my heart. So obviously I wanted to do better myself, and I suppose in a little bit of a way, from a selfish point of view, I had to leave the team. And it was something that was like, it was very, very difficult for me to do because I put a lot of time and effort into Trentmen, with not just running it, but like all over the years, and, you know, being with all them different lads, and like, you know, I felt like it was like, it's like you're leaving like a part of your family.
Part of your family, yeah.
You know what I mean? It was really, really difficult. But at the same time, I got asked by a couple of teams that like are basically like the top teams of like now, if you like, do you want to come and fish for us? And I had it for like a year or two, like I think a few years. I don't want to like sound bigger or anything, but like, you know, for the last sort of like 4 years or whatever,
you sat
for a
on
move.
it.
I was getting asked, and I was like, I don't really, do you know what I mean? I didn't really feel like it was right, and like I wanted to leave really the team in the best place it could be, which was hard to do. But it was also for me the right thing to do when I did leave, because I wanted to progress myself, and like I suppose so from a selfish point of view, like it kind of had to be done.
Yeah.
And then anyone that's ever done any team fishing and like knows, you know, the ins and outs of it, they would tell you exactly that, mate. That, you know, you have to be a little bit selfish if you want to progress.
Yeah.
Right. In any sport, I suppose.
Totally.
You could say that. So, although it was hard for me, I did eventually have to leave, and Darren asked me to join Starlets, and I had a really, really good think about it, to be honest, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But I thought, well, team fishing is still my number one. That's what I get the most enjoyment out of. So I might as well try and do it. And they're like, you know, probably one of the more local teams to me, like Starlets are. They're a Midland sort of team.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of them, you know, so I felt that was like the best move for me. And
can I ask you the other teams were that was asking?
I don't want to say it was like the
worth
good
an
ones.
ask. It was worth an ask.
It's one of them. It like you know the good teams.
I could guess anyway.
The best.
That's fine.
Yeah. You probably could, but yeah, it was a tough decision, mate. It really was. It really was a tough decision. So, but that's where I've gone, and I'm dead happy there, to be honest. And I get on well with a lot of the lads, and again, I'm learning loads again already. Do you know what I mean? I've been there a couple of years now. I know we've had, you know, probably a year where we've not really been fishing or anything, and like not really done anything properly like that. But I think there are some really exciting times to come in the future with being involved with this set of lads, because I would love nothing more than to go like, you know, fish a World Club Championships with them, or win a national with them, or do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. That's what I want as an angler. Yeah. And I've never actually really had it, because I've not been in a team that's been able to quite get there and do it. Do you know what I mean? I've been involved with some fantastic anglers over my time, but I feel like where I am now, I know that it's like well achievable. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like, you're in the top
the lineup of unreal, mate. It's like some of the lads you fish with are just like next level. You know, I mean, like this. Well, you probably can't how many there is, but you know, a lot of them are like already international anglers. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, you got like Steve, Sean. You know, there's so much knowledge there that I feel like, you know, when things get kicked back in and stuff, and we can fish a bit more, and like, you know, everything sort itself out a little bit better. You know, there's some really, really good times to be out ahead. I really do think that. No,
listen.
Looking forward to it.
Perfect place to win titles. You know, you think of the top three, you think Barnsley, Dorking, and Starlets. So you know, there you are. You're in one of them. So, well, let's talk a little bit more selfishly, if you like, as an individual. Let's bring things right up to present. First of all, massive well done on qualifying again for Riverfest this year. But you're relieved.
Thank you very much. I was, for me, it means a lot to me, because I really back when in 2018 when I won it, like I really wanted to go back again and do it all over again because like I just had such a good time. It was amazing. It was an amazing feeling. I suppose you could say it's like the first big event that I've like won individually. Like I've had like good results on other matches and things, but that like absolutely tops it, without a doubt.
Well, what we're not going to do is we're not going to talk about that match per se, because there's a really good one where you've done a full overview of how you won that match with Matrix. If anybody wants to jump onto the Matrix channel and watch that about how you won that event, that's fantastic. But
I didn't hold anything back, you know, just spoke like as I'm speaking to you, and you know, as I speak to anyone that approached me on a bank, I do the same. So exactly the same with them, mate.
Brilliant. So this year, though, I mean, like you say, you want to replicate that feeling. You want to get another one on your belt. Yeah,
I do, and it's on a local venue to me. It's at Burton Joyce on the Trent. I know it. I feel already that I really feel like I know what to do already. I know river's changing. You get extra water in, blah blah blah. You get bad weather, but I'm like really confident underneath, and I know I can do well. Given it obviously a good pack of two, it'd be lovely. But yeah, to I suppose like be the first person to win it twice would be like unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say
that'd be like absolutely amazing. It really would. But I know I can. Under the right conditions and everything right, I know I can like do really well from a lot of areas there. It's a very, 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 very good venue because you can catch fish in a lot of different ways and it suits a lot of anglers.
I've not fished it yet. I've not gone down that far.
It's fantastic, mate.
All my fishing's been around Newark, so I've not been that far, but I am looking forward to it. Some of the I've drove past and some of the videos I've seen, it just looks a great match venue.
It is. It's fantastic. It's got everything, mate. It's got big fish. You know, it's got loads of dace, roach. There's just a real happy balance there with like everything. You know, there's been cormorants on it for like years and years and years and years. It's just like found it's one of them places. It's just found the balance now, and like everything's happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like a part of the Trent. It's probably one of the best parts of the Trent, what I would say. It really is. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of river.
I've got to get on and have a dab. It really looks the part.
It's great, mate. It's just even if you like go pleasure fishing down the road straight, you can go and pleasure fish that bit. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, all the look. I might even come and watch the final. I'll say, but you know, all the look in the world for that.
Thank you very much. No, brilliant. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it.
No, it's good. I mean, well, we're sort of coming in now to sort of what the future holds. Apart from this final, I mean, obviously you're consultant with Matrix as well, which I know you held in very high regard with your colleagues there. So, what's the plans now then going forward? We just explained, you'd love to win a big team event. We want you to win the Riverfest and be the first person to do it twice. But what's the future hold for Lee Wright?
Like I would. Just really, mate. Like I don't know. I don't want to sound like a bit of a cliche, but like just to like enjoy my fishing like the most I can, and you know, because that's what I do. That's why I go because I enjoy it. I feel like if you're going fishing, and you're not enjoying it. You're not. It's pointless you're going, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like me, that is why I go. That is why I go, and that's why I do the discipline I do, because that's what I enjoy the most. It is where I get my enjoyment. Like I like fishing commercials, I like fishing canals, but I don't fish them that much because it's not where my level of enjoyment's at. My level of enjoyment is in team fishing and fishing matches on rivers, because that's what I like to do.
Would you still fancy a crack at Fisho?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, mate. No, I've not fished any of those matches. So, like Match This and Fisher and that, I've not fished any of those for a couple of years now. Really, those ones. I used to fish them all the time. I've been in a couple of Match This finals, and like I've put the time in on them, and I just got to a bit of a point with it where I wasn't enjoying going fishing. I was going
that's the thing. That's
to try and like just going. You're trying to like win a match off a peg where you can't win a match, or like.
That's why I stopped fishing. It was doing me head in. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely daft in a lot of ways. But like equally, you're just going for a draw and a chance to get through to that final. And don't get me wrong, it's buzz. It's an amazing buzz. It's brilliant. And fair play to all the lads that do it, you know, because, you know, that is where they put their time. But it's also what they get their enjoyment from. Yeah. You know what I mean? They must enjoy that to keep doing it. And to keep going in these finals. Like Jamie, for example, you know, he's been in Fisher and the Match This, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
But they put that much time and effort into that discipline that, like, it's paying off for them because they are at the top of their game with that.
100%.
So, you know, but, you know, I'd never rule out, like, going back for fishing an odd one and that. But at the minute where I am now, I'm, like, dead happy. So, you know, this is what I like to do. I also love to go fishing in Ireland, and I would love to win an Irish festival, actually. That's one thing I would love to do.
Okay.
I've you know, I love going over there into like September and stuff. Actually, I'm not going this year because it actually quite clashes with the Riverfest final. So I'd booked on a festival there, but it sort of, I can't get back from there to then fish the Riverfest.
Never been, mate. Never been Ireland.
Oh, do you know what I mean? Oh, it's fantastic. It's beautiful, beautiful place.
No,
beautiful.
I'm desperate.
Like so wild and. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But yeah, I would love to win at like a big Irish festival, you know, any of them, to be fair, because, you know, the standard of angler again is very high, and, you know, the fishing's brilliant. It's great. You know, I've done well on them, but I've never won one. So that'll definitely be another goal. Definitely.
Oh, brilliant. No, I love it. That ticks all the boxes for me. You've more than covered what I wanted to discuss. But if you wouldn't mind, before we sort of finish off, I do have a couple of questions from the listeners.
Absolutely, mate. Go for it. You fire them away. Yeah, no problem.
All right, then there's two from Chris Hodgson. I think he's from my neck of the woods, actually, because he name checks a couple of venues not far from me. So he says, can we ask Lee, please, how he would go about fishing a match on a fenland drain at this time of the year when it's very weedy and clear and you're scratching or looking for a bonus fish? Is there any specific tactics, approach, or rigs?
Right, so like fenland drains, when I've been on those before in the past, this time of year, I feel like the fish get pushed about a lot in those. So bonus fish can be very hard to catch. And what I mean by that is, like, when you get down there, you get set up, there's very, very little cover on them, apart from, like, having a highish bank behind you. So I think what happens is the fish actually see you before you, like, even realise, and, like, they're off, and that's why the MPEGs always dominate, because they get pushed up by activity on the bank, and, like, you know, you ship poles out, things like that. They just, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes, you know, you have some, like, reeds on the far side where you can chuck a feeder or something like that, and it's not so bad. But in terms of, like, if you want to actually, I suppose, target a bonus fish, a lot of the time on them sort of places, like, chopworm's like your number one bait, like, for that. This time of year, I would personally use, like, chopworm and dead maggots on those sort of places. I've had a lot of success on similar sort of venues like that, with dead maggots as opposed to casters. I mean, don't get me wrong, casters are very good, can have the day, but, like, I feel like everybody feeds them as well. Do you know what I mean? So like everyone puts chocolate and castor together. So just being sometimes a tiny little bit different can like maybe sometimes catch you one fish that can make a difference, or not saying it does all the time, but more so on places like that where you're having to scratch. And I've been there before, and like, I remember like fishing Super League on some of the Boston greens and stuff. And
well,
like,
this is what he's name checked.
Very difficult.
Yeah, he's talking about Bargate and Tidgoat, which are basically with them.
I've fished on there, definitely. So yeah, really, it's about like setting a trap for a big fish, like finding an area. Like if you like, they normally, some of them they catch on feeders quite a lot, but if it's too weedy, obviously you're not going to be chucking a feeder. So trying to find a hole in the weed, like in a decent depth of water that you think the fish are going to be in, like for your as your bonus fish line, is very important. So like trying to catch an eel, a big perch, a bream, perhaps a tench, something like that. Yeah. Bonus fish are obviously mega at that time of year. One thing we did used to do on them weedy venues, I remember doing it on the Neen, was like fishing like a really, really heavy rig to like bang it through the weed. Like I'm talking like 3-4 gram in like 8 foot of water. And like with your Olivet and like a sort of like 8-inch up length and just an Olivet in your shot, so that you could like literally drop it straight through the weed, and it was you knew it was in the area where you were likely to get a bite. It might not, your bait might actually not be quite on the bottom, but what we found on there was, in like practicing for like Winter League finals, is they would actually take your bait off the weed and things like that. Like,
oh really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I can remember like practicing once, and like you'd see fish coming in, odd times, and like you could watch them like from where you were fishing, and it was because it was like gin clear. Yeah, and like you could watch them come into your peg and like how they behaved and stuff. Sometimes like fishing on into evening and things like that. You know what I mean? You get to learn like little bits. But yeah, we found that worked really well. So maybe a similar sort of thing might work on there. Scratching about really for small fish and stuff. Your squats, pinkies are like probably king baits at this time of year for trying to get you like bites and stuff off little fish. I would fish a nice soft ground bait. Very soft, very fine, probably over wet, so it clouds up, or like mixed very dry at the beginning. Try and attract some fish into your peg. What you don't want to do is before putting it in like your sort of standard bowls and it going in the weed and you don't know where it's going.
Yeah, you don't know where it is.
I'd rather try and fish better fishing like on top of the weed, or like in and around it. In fact, I did a video not long back actually about this specific sort of thing, and that it's on a venue near Ashby on a canal there, and that is absolutely choked with weed, and that's on the Matrix channel as well. And it was like about trying to, how to overcome the problem of having weed, and a lot of the time you have to just fish over it and like fish shallow. We do it on the Saw as well. Some of the Saw, especially the natural river, can be really weedy this time of year, and you can't get your rig to the bottom on some of it, so you just have to fish above it. And just fish like a little bit lighter rigs and things, and you fish maybe ground bait and that sort of thing.
Would you fish loose ground bait to try and create a carpet on top of the weed that way?
Yeah. Just like not about putting too much in really, and like sort of feeling your way in. Maybe like perhaps like put like 2 pots of loose in at the start, and then see what type of response you get, and then. It can be very frustrating fishing in and around weed, because like you can never be 100% sure where your bait is, and like what it's actually doing. It's not like fishing on a nice clean bottom where you know what's happening. It's a bit different. So, but don't be scared to like actually flick it into the weed and things like that. Little different things will get you bites where other things won't. You know what I mean?
Well, and of course, as you said, if it's not working, do something stupid.
Yeah, very much so, mate. It does. You'd be surprised, really.
That's definitely the biggest takeaway.
Hemp, another one as well, mate. Is hemp can be very good. Like just putting a pot of hemp somewhere. If you've got a little gap in the reed, like especially roach, they'll just sit over it. You just sit over it. They're not. You don't necessarily need to keep feeding it, but it will just attract fish. And they will sit over it. If it's not a venue that responds well to ground bait, that can be another way of like winkling if you're out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But certainly like squats and pinkies, that sort of route can be the best, really.
Bread and butter, yeah. No?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. All right. Well, hopefully that's answered Chris's question. That was great. The only other comment he'd added on was about tilted goat and bargate, which we've just discussed anyway. So brilliant. Well, Lee, we've sort of come to the end there, to be fair. We've had a good old hour and a bit's chat. We've gone through loads of stuff about where you came from, where you are now, what you hope to do in the future. And as I've said, I wish you all the best with Riverfest and anything else that you go for. And especially the time with the Starlets as well. You know, like you say, you probably feel that you've not quite got your running boots on yet because of with COVID and all the rest of it. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When things pick up again, you know, and those nationals start kicking in and attendances are good, and it's like how it should be, a proper draw and all the rest of it, then I'm sure you'll be there or thereabouts with them. So, final thing from me, mate, a massive thank you for joining me on this podcast.
That's quite all right. You are welcome.
We'd love to have you back again another time. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, let me know, mate. I'd be more than happy to come back on. No problem at all.
Teddy Fisher Baits specialise in the manufacture of fishing ground bait and additives. We combine a 40-year-old proven fish catching recipe and the experience of our skilled team. Fishing is an adventure, and here at Teddy Fisher, we strive to make that adventure a success. Go to www.teddyfisher.co.uk to see our full range of baits.
So let's have a little look in the tackle shed, a chance to review through the magazines some of the upcoming tackle that's going to be available very, very soon in your local shops, but also as well some tried and tested pieces. If there's anything that's highlighted in those magazines that I've used, I'll give my honest opinion about them as well. But this month we did do something slightly different because it's National Fishing Month. So from the 26th of July to the end of August, it's an opportunity to try and introduce new people into the sport. Similarly, lots of these initiatives that I mentioned earlier on around take a friend fishing, etc., it coincides with the release of lots of tackle aimed at either the returnee to the sport or to the new beginner. So for some time now, I've thought about doing a video or a feature or something in conjunction with my article in the paper here around fishing for 50 quid, something like that. You know, can you get yourself set up, tackled up and sort of good to go with a bit of an understanding of what to do and how to approach things for the sake of 50 quid? And I think you genuinely can. But as we've started looking through, as I was looking through the different tackle that's being released, there's one brand that stood out like a sore thumb that is really aiming at getting people on the bank, and it's Corum. Obviously, Corum is part of Preston Innovations. It's like the pleasure angler stroke specimen arm, if you like, of Preston, along with Avid. And they've released this piece of kit called Phase One. So the Phase One of your tackle of your fishing career, I guess. Now, I'd read lots and lots about it. It was in Improve Your Course Fishing last month. James Furness, who is the editor, did a 3-page piece. Essentially, there's 2 rods, one float rod and a feeder rod. They're both 10 foot long, 2-piece, and a 3000 size reel with preloaded 8-pound line on there. The rods are $29.99. The reels are $19.99, so 30 and 20 quid. And I thought to myself, well, okay, are they any good? You know, so where can I go and have a little look? So I went down to my local shop, to Fishing Evolution. I dropped Mark a message, said, have you got any of these Phase One bits of kit in? And had a little look, and I was massively surprised at what you can get for your money. And I think, you know, you can get yourself a little whip, you can get set up with a ready-made rig and get fishing pretty quickly. And don't forget rod licenses and things like that for adults, etc. But I think if you're going to splash out and you're going to give it a go, I think these types of kits, say rod for 30 quid and reel for 20, Mava Reality as well, they do kits in boxes. You may as well invest that little bit more and get these types of setup, because I think they're going to last longer, and it's something you can put away and pull out every summer if wish. And I'm thinking as well, what is this tackle aimed at? If it's for most of these listeners on here, our listeners, they're going to be match anglers. And really, it's all about, do you want to trust, your little one or your friend who's a bit clumsy with your sparkling pole and all your match equipment? Probably not. So I think for the sake of, probably 50 quid, absolutely. Little whip, couple of ready-made rigs, bait boxes, plummets, all the rest of it. More than enough money to get fishing and giving it a try. But I think for 60, 70 quid, these phase one rods and reels are absolutely superb to get cracking and giving the sport a go. So I went into the tackle shop. I had a waggle of the rods and a play around with the reel. Great bits of kit for the price, 100%. So if you are in the market to take somebody out and give them a go and make use of the National Fishing Month and a lot of the free tickets that fisheries are offering, check out the Quorum Phase 1 kit at your local stockist. With that as well, chatting to the chaps in the tackle shop, Quorum, sticking to that theme, flying out the shelves, they've released a new accessory chair. And a lot of anglers now, getting on a bit, bad backs, all the rest of it, fished the pole for years, not as steady on the feet as they used to be. And a lot of anglers are turning towards more of a traditional seat, if you like. Well, this one offers the ability to do a bit of everything, really. You'd be comfortable holding at least a margin pole, but it's ready made for rod and reel fishing as well. So it's the Quorum Deluxe Accessory Chair S23. They do two of them, but the deluxe one, the guys were saying in the shop, has absolutely flown out. I think they had 10 delivered, and within the space of a couple of days, that they had one left, and that was the one they had on display. Retailing at sort of 140 quid, around that sort of price. But what I was really impressed with when I was looking at this seat was all the box accessories. They have a universal selection that fits onto these legs, but also 25 mil, 30 mil, 36 mil, so they can be used for pretty much everything as well. So cracking piece of kit. Quorum on fire at the minute. And I think, the phase one stuff's really going to sell well, and as is this chair, if my local shop's anything to go by. Okay, sticking with the theme of introducing people to the sport, what about carp fishing in the specimen sense, if you like? So whilst I was in the shop the other day chatting to the guys, we discussed, I said, if I was to, say I want to do a night's carping, I want to give it a go, but I don't want to spend loads and loads of money. The reality with carp fishing is you're not going to get set up for sort of 50, 60, 70 quid. Um, purely on the basis of some of the kit that you need. But the guys did go through it, and they highlighted a couple of things that have been released. And first of all, it's Corda, the mighty Corda, shall we say, have hit the sweet spot with a range of terminal tackle and accessories called Basics, BASIX. And the idea is to make things as simple as possible in terms of rigging up and getting fishing and giving carping a go. They've released this cradle that the guys were massively impressed with for the sake of 40 odd quid. And it's got these 10 steps on the back around caring for fish, everything from landing a fish to looking after it, really. But it's a foldable cradle, waistling cradle, however you want to use it. And it's a lot more sort of user friendly and maneuverable, should we say, as some of the big ones that don't fold up, and perfect for the beginner. Good for roving, things like that as well. So this basics range takes the hardship out of everything, really, right the way down to sort of hook lengths and rigs and whatever you need. And they're all easily identifiable in a nice black and white color scheme. And on the back is the imagery showing you how to use that product. So saying around, getting a simple rod, a simple buzzer setup, etc., rod and reel, line, the chaps reckon you could get out, you could get fishing with a reasonable setup for about 200 to 250 quid. So that's really encouraging for young carp anglers, for people wanting to maybe have a second setup, if they're going to go out and do a couple of nights carp fishing, etc. So that's not as expensive as I thought it was going to be. I thought we were talking in a region of sort of 450. So that was quite interesting to see how Corda have gone down that route to simplify carp fishing as well. And of course, it's in everybody's interest, tackle companies not least, to get more and more people, newcomers into the sport, or those returnees, and take advantage of them whilst things are really, really buoyant. So that was the pieces from Quorum and from Corda. A couple of things in Matchfishing magazine that was also caught my eye. Guru ready tied rigs. So what they've got coming out for hook length wise, they've got some 15-inch QM1s along with their Super MWGs and a couple of new lengths and items to go with these ready tied hooks. Now, I buy these. I use Guru ready tied hook lengths. Absolutely. I very, very rarely. I've used them probably now for at least 4 years. Never had an issue really. Yet some of my friends very much complain around them snapping at the knot, not being quite as robust as something they could tie themselves. So they don't go down this route. For me, I've never really had an issue with any of the Guru hook lengths, and for the sake of £3, I'm more than happy to buy these. But so from a tried and tested, for me they work. For others they don't. So fair enough. But there's a few new ones in the range. So if you are a lover of these Guru hook lengths, check them out because you might want to add them to your collection, as will I. Also in here as well, now I am a sucker for a bit of marketing, absolutely, and I noticed this bit of a device in one of the mags, and it's advertised in this month's Matchfishing magazine called the Bait Stir. So www.thebaitstir.co.uk. And it's essentially a handheld, as it says here, a handheld mixing device designed to combine together different mixed ingredients. Now, I don't carry a drill, I don't carry a whisk or anything like that when I'm mixing grummet. I use my hands in general. It's rare that I would ever knock up over 2 kilos, so I think I can manage that with my, with my hands, so no problem. But I did see this, and I thought, for the sake of £13, I'll give it a go. And I ordered it, and it was on my doorstep within 2 days. And it's essentially a plastic grip that you can really get stuck into the ground bait with, and it's shaped to make it as efficient as possible. Now, what's my opinion is, I'm not sure. I'm going to say straight away, is it £13 down the drain? I'm not sure. It does work, it does stir, it does mix it up well once you start adding the water, but when you're using a round bucket, it's missing all the bottom, the dry ingredients at the bottom or on the edges. So I found myself using the stirrer in the middle of the mix, if you like. Then I'd have to follow it up with my hands to get the dry bits from underneath. So I'm not convinced. It might be my technique. It might be the design of the item, but yeah, it's an interesting one. I might end up going back to the old fingers and thumbs. So I thought I'd mention it. Have a little look. It's a green item. I've only used it once. It needs more practice, I'm sure. On the following page to that was in, let's just have a look, that was page 82 actually in Matchfishing. On 84, you've got Keep Nice Direct 2-core hollow pole elastic. Now, some of my mates, they swear by this stuff. It's been around for quite a while now, and people have started cottoning onto it over time. We know there's tons and tons of hollows out there. There's a big move and shift towards hybrid elastics also. I've gone down that route a little bit myself, but I've still got a lot of hollows going on in my top kits. And KND, as it's known, Keep Nice Direct, really does tick the box. I can promise you. Friends of mine swear by this stuff. And for £4 for 2 meters, £5 for 2.5 meters, or £6 for 3 meters, it's absolutely really, really good value. So KND, check it out for those prices at keepnetsdirect.co.uk. Another thing that caught my eye from the magazine Matchfishing was this release, because it caught my eye because I bought something similar. This release of a new trolley adapters by Preston's, the off-box wheel kit it's called, and as the advert says, an alternative to a full trolley from Preston Innovations. What it is for me, I've had a map trolley for a few years, and it has been horrendous. It's been re-riveted, I think 3 times now, and I'm just getting a little bit sort of sick to the back teeth of it. Similarly, because I'm now fishing a lot of rivers, not all the pegging is behind the peg, so you've got to go for a bit of a walk, and it was just not working out for me. So for my Matrix box, I bought the 2-wheel transporter system, which I'm still trying to get on with as well. I've only used it once. But this is very, very similar, but it looks universal, as if this will fit on numerous boxes. So the idea is essentially is you're going to put the wheels on towards the back legs of your seat box. You're going to extend the front legs of your foot plate, and your foot plate's going to act as a plate to put your carry-all or bait bag on, etc. And then the idea is you could, probably put your rods across the handle and the seat of your seat box. So makes absolute sense. It's coming in at £100. I think I paid 90 for my Matrix one. But I think we might see more and more people gravitating towards this type of transport solution because it's getting a little bit unwieldy now. And there's a lot of people that I know have been frustrated with their trolleys and breaking, having to be refixed. And it's a number of manufacturers, not just a map one like I've got. So, yeah, maybe we'll see a few more of these on the bank, and it might be something that interests you also. So that's some magazines. Just to finish off, I guess, some of the things that I did see as well whilst I was wandering around the tackle shop. I went specifically in to look at the phase one stuff and obviously asked the question around the carp setup. But whilst I was wandering around the store, a couple of other little bits and pieces. One was a Sonic, Sonik, commercial kit that's out there. The guys were saying that in terms of pellet waggler rods and reels, they sell like hotcakes. So I thought I'd have a little waggle of the rods. Perfectly usable, 30 odd quid. I think about £32 for a 10-foot pellet waggler rod. Really, really good value. And the reels, although a little bit on the small size, I have to say, I had a play with a 5,000 size. Definitely didn't feel or look a 5,000, more like a 4,000. More than capable, I think, of cranking on commercials. They're called a commercial 5,000. More than capable, definitely a couple of bearings in there, and you get a spare spool with them as well. So again, excellent value. So the Sonic kit looks really usable. There's something that caught my eye. I thought the other week when it was red hot, I was in two minds whether to fishing trainers. It's a stupid scenario going through my head. Fishing trainers, I'll put my usual boots on. I have a pair of sort of like hiking boots. So when it was that hot, I really didn't know what to do. And I know some lads fishing like sliders, flip-flops, Crocs even. Well, I can tell you now, you'll never find me in a pair of Crocs, that is for sure. But they obviously serve a purpose in terms of every time you land in a fish, and your feet are going to be getting wet from the landing net dripping, and you need something that's going to dry pretty quickly. And I get the idea behind the sliders and all the rest of it, but they're not really for me for fishing. And I spotted something in the shop, and they're from Nash, so they're a carp item if you like, but for everybody, they're called Nash water shoes. So essentially a pair of trainers that you can go in the lake or the river with. They've got a grip on there as well, so you're not going to trip and hurt yourself if you like. Plenty of grip for the rocks, etc. And of course, when you get back out after you've landed your fish or whatever reason you need to get into the water, then they're going to dry out really, really quickly because that's why they're designed that way. Breathable and yeah, Nash water shoes. Checked them out, they're about 30 quid. Nothing, too outlandish. So that's a genius idea. Why hadn't I thought of buying something like that in the past? Of all these years, I've had my feet sweating in my hiking boots. So yeah, those water shoes, something that caught my eye also. Looking around the shop, also I was asking questions about waders. River fishing is massive at the minute, 100%. I drive down my local stretch, nearest stretch of the Trent to me is Winthorpe. I drive along there pretty regular, go over the A1, you can see it on that length. Really, really popular. Loads of cars down there, and it's great because you can park behind your peg, etc. And with that, of course, these items of river tackle are really, really selling well. So speaking of Corum, we spoke about before, they do a two rod tripod. The lads in the tackle shop in Fishing Evolution can't get enough of them. They're selling like mad. And of course, waders. So if somebody needs to get out, land a fish, or if you're fishing a river where you can, safely get across and maybe fish a float across a far bank or set up a platform, then the likes of the Vast ones and there's all sorts of brands out there selling really well because river fishing is booming. So yeah, I was surprised at just how good a selection the lads had in fishing evolution, that is for sure. So there we go. There's a few bits and pieces that I picked up. I thought it was quite nice, actually. Is yes, I've seen stuff in the press and I've seen the videos on YouTube and whatever, but there's nothing like going down to your local shop and having a bit of a waggle of these bits of kit and getting your hands on them and just thinking, is this for me or isn't it? And I think looking at those phase 1 rods, my advice would be, if you're going to take someone fishing over the summer, don't scrimp on the tackle. Don't buy any of these rubbish starter kits from a supermarket or whatever. Look at this core and phase 1 and think about the longevity of it, the robustness. You don't want to be buying something that breaks straight away. And of course, not too expensive that, it's going to be sat there gathering dust and a waste of money. Okay, so that's the tackle shed. Hopefully, I've given you a few ideas there. And that wraps up our episode 3 of series 2. I hope you enjoyed the big chat with Lee Wright and also the press pack as well. As soon as we have another guest lined up, we'll be winging our way into the virtual studio and recording once again. So thanks for listening and tight lines.